I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Hello, Essence. I'm Jody England, and you're listening to Wild Soul Medicine Radio. Here we are. Here we are again. And as we drop in today, we are exploring the topic of lone wolf energy. And even if you are thinking in this moment that this doesn't apply to you, it does. It does. It applies to all of us, and some of us more so than others, or maybe more obviously than others. But as I look at it, it really is, it's, at one level, part of the human condition, this separation, which is really at the heart of the lone wolf. And certain templates and archetypes are designed more toward the obvious manifestations of it. And then, there are various other ways that it all shows up. So that's what we're playing with today. And so we're going to ease our way in. If you aren't on our list, you haven't gotten the email about it. But what I was explaining to our subscribers is this is not a topic that I really want to talk about. And as you know, I'm just led by spirit here, and I show up in service of what wants to occur. And this morning I woke up like, I think I'm good. I don't know that I really have anything to share. Maybe we'll just take callers or something, easy. And as I settled into meditation, it was almost immediate, this topic of aloneness. And of course this came up for me several days ago, and I had been putting off actually being with it and looking at it. And so, of course, it's calling me today. So, I just begin this show with, letting you know that I am by no means an expert in healing the reign of the lone wolf. And in fact, I'm really at the edge of the exploration of it. And I feel like there's so much medicine in that for us. Showing up, realizing that it's perfectly fine to be the student of new dynamics and to take an unashamed look at what is this thing and why do I do that? And does it serve me and how does it serve me? And as we begin to honor those, then we open the possibility for wholeness and balance so that we can be all of the ways that we are rather than just in some ways, the ones that are easier for us or have been habitual for us. So that's what we're diving into today. And, the other thing that I'm called to share is, I don't know if I've ever said this on the show, but my husband and I were talking, I think it was last week or maybe it was the week before. I actually had shared a fair amount about him that week. And, I was asking him afterward, how did that feel? And was that okay with you? And, and he said, well, my concern about just kind of like in general, what you share is that you just share a snippet of, of who you really are, or how a certain thing was, or how I am, or how you are with me. And, and in a way it could paint a caricature of who we really are, because it's not like, I think in that show, I was talking about being awkward being with my family. And he's like, you're such a wonderful mother and you spend a lot of time with our children and you're such a beautiful guide for them. And, I think you maybe sell yourself short when you tell your stories. And, and it was great reflection because sometimes I forget how much I just think that everybody operates from this paradigm of not having a story or realizing that everything is a story, So when I share a snippet of my life, I'm assuming that that I have a fully rounded life and, that all that I'm sharing is true. And also, a piece. And that none of it really means anything. So sometimes people can get a little lost, I think, and, feeling like they have to save me or that, I don't know, whatever that would be like. And so I want to just kind of put that out there too, that, the invitation for all of us is to not take ourselves so freaking seriously. And, also just to realize that, what I'm up to here is this very deeper conversation. So when we talk today about this lone wolf conversation, it's not that I don't have any friends, and it's not that I don't, have family and people that I speak to and, meaningful interactions. And what we're looking at is this deeper cut, where the pain lives. What is the thing we aren't talking about? Where is the place you are blind to what's happening in you? That's what I get passionate about. And again, I just assume everybody is starting there. And if you're not, it bears, just saying that, don't spend much time in my story. Use my story as a portal into your story, because it's all really about you. And I'm all really about me. And so, there isn't any need or reason to escape into, I feel bad for her, or, gosh, I'm glad I don't have that. In fact, it's the opposite. So if you find yourself saying, I'm really glad I don't have that lone wolf problem, that's exactly why you should be leaning in to look, because if you're in this energy space, you have it. If you gravitated into the field of this, whether it be on the Facebook group or on the list, and you happen to read that email, or if you're listening right now, there's a piece for you here. There's medicine. And, and sometimes our egos are tricky with that, and they have us forget, that really one is all. And so there are pieces of all of the medicine in each of us. So with that, I think maybe my lone wolf needed some, as I just tune into that, I feel like my lone wolf needed a little boundary setting, because this is a vulnerable place for me to go. And so my request is, I don't even need the request. I think, listen how you want to listen. And that just actually helped me to create some space for myself, so that as I explore this, it feels like I can do it from a place of usefulness for myself. And then if it happens to mean something for you, fantastic. So our wolves are teaching us already, right? And sometimes they're fierce. Sometimes they're fierce in their, their knowingness about what needs to happen. So we're going to begin actually with, I want to start with an amendment to something that I had said a couple sessions ago. I can't even remember what the show was about, but I talked about the fact that I've never actually had a psychic reading, and I don't really subscribe to them because I feel like it's a way of giving your power away. And so this past week, I have a friend who just got her certification as an Akashic record reader. And if you don't know what that is, Akashic records are like the book of life. So, it's the record of your soul through all of its lifetimes. And people who can read them can actually just kind of access the file, and you ask them questions, and then they can give you information about really anything, but about your soul, your path, your purpose, what's next for you, all of that. So I said yes because she needed to practice, and she, and I really love her and I trust her. So I said yes. And then what happened was, as we began the reading, what was really up in my space was this story, this belief that I've had that, that getting this reading would be somehow giving my power away, because like if she told me something that was different than what I already knew or what I have seen for myself, what am I going to do with that information? Does that put me more off course, or does it serve me in some way? And I wasn't really sure what to do with that. So as we opened the session, she asked me, what was in my space. And I said, I just want to get this out there. This is kind of floating around for me as far as I want to support you and have this reading and have it be useful for me. And, I'm worried about giving my power away. And so she really smartly read the records about it. And the records said, there's a lesson in here, which is that vulnerability is power. And there's a way that you can just, basically open yourself up to, allowing this to serve you and not having to hold all of everything, to be the knower of all things. And so I wanted just to amend that I have now had a form of a psychic reading. It's, a Akashic record reading, so it's a very specific kind of reading. And it was really beautiful and useful. And so I just wanted to, really be authentic about that and let you know that happened. And also, I see some value in it. And so I'm still kind of playing the edge of, do I have advice about it or would I do it again? And I think what I enjoyed about it is that there is no interpretation from the person reading the records. So she just says what they say, but she doesn't interpret it from her filter, which felt a little safer to me and more pure. And so I probably will have another one, just so you know. And so in that reading is, it was interesting because one of the things that came up was I was asking this question. So if you've been listening a while, we bought this home in Ohio, and I've been born and raised here, even though it doesn't really resonate with who I am and it's not my people. And I kind of operate as an island unto myself here. I don't really do a lot of stuff out in my community or with other people or any of that. And all of my clients are from around the world, so that, we connect over the phone, but they're not here. And so I hadn't planned to ask that, but it surfaced right at the beginning of the session. And so I asked that question to the records, like, does me living in Ohio actually serve a purpose? Because and so what the records told me is, there's something deeper, like, what is your actual question? And my question was along the lines of, do I have to keep taking one for the team? Because I kind of feel like I got all these clear messages about locating here. We got this amazing deal on this gorgeous house just as we were planning to move away. And some things started happening right after that. Like some people came forward and it's like, oh yeah, maybe there's a community here, but none of that really materialized. And so, I had felt those beginnings of, uncertainty in my system again. Like, is this really the place? And, am I supposed to be like the Midwestern light for consciousness and evolution? Am I here because, it helps me to be more steeped in my essence because I'm not surrounded by people who I could fade into or become like. And so it has me firmly engaged in this ongoing conversation of what is my essence and what is true for me without the interference of a tribe, And so it was this beautiful, beautiful, vulnerable reading from my Akashic records, which was along the lines of, the aloneness both serves a purpose and is the wound to heal. Which of course is the way with all things. Our shadow is both our gift and our curse. It is our lesson and our medicine on all sides of the coin. And it was really beautiful. Like there were some beautiful visuals of the grief that I carry around being alone. And I was asking about this ongoing question I have of, is there a mentor for me? And the answer was yes. Yes, there are these grandmothers that are waiting for me. And naturally I ask, well, when do I get to meet them and where are they? And the answer was when you stop believing you have all the answers, when you stop thinking you can do it by yourself. And as much as my head wanted to say, Well, I get that. Of course, I know that. Of course, I don't have all the answers, just most of them. I could feel the tearfulness around it, and I can feel it now in my system, where it's a simultaneous push and pull for me. Like, I want that. I want to lay my head in the lap of a wise mother, who gets me, who knows where I'm going, who's been there, who sees me fully. And I can also feel the control in my system and the fear of actually letting that happen, and the vulnerability of trusting someone to be that for me. It's much more comfortable for me to be that for everyone else, right? Because then I don't have to worry about not being met or choosing wrongly or being hurt. So it was such a beautiful picture that it was very compelling. Like, this is the year for me to begin to let go of some of that control and withholding, and really meet my mentors and meet my destiny in a new way. And so, I've been called in that direction. And then also there's, as with all deep transformation and change, there's a tendency to want to pull the covers up over my head. So, I'm not sure how to go about it. And I kind of just tabled it for a few days. And then, of course, it showed up today, right when I was thinking I had nothing to talk about. So I agree. I agree to show up and talk about the thing, even though I have no idea really what this is going to look like as it works out. But my intention is for us to do some energy work together here in a little bit, because I also know that this doesn't actually only apply to me, because I have a group full of women just like me in magic school, women who are used to functioning as the top of their food chain, so to speak, where they are the go-to friend. They are the most schooled, the most wise, the most together in their marriages, in their relationships, in their, with their clients. And, they're not used to being met. And what is happening is, as we begin to gather for the shifting of the planet, we can no longer sustain the capacity of the work that we are here to do if we only do it by ourselves. It's just too heavy of a weight to bear. And so, there are gifts in why we have been steeped in this aloneness, and I really want to honor those. And we are being called into this very new ground of how do we be these powerful beings who see and know and feel so much more deeply than lots of other people, and how do we let ourselves be met and held while we still be ourselves, And so I want to honor actually some of the gifts of the lone wolf, because I know in my system, when somebody calls attention to my aloneness or my lack of reachability, I feel a little ashamed about it, because culturally we're taught that's not a good thing, and introverts are not where it's at, and like, you should be loving, and that's the best way, and people who are that are better. And I want to just kind of call bullshit on all of that, because some of the people who do that a lot are the lovers, right? They're the lovers, and it's also part of the spiritual bypass, right? So this message is equally for the lovers who consider themselves well connected, because if you're loving a person who's a lone wolf, there's something in you that's not actually up for connection, right? And I say that with the utmost love, but it's like we all have to begin healing this at our deepest levels. And the only way to do that is to get really honest with yourself. So, yeah, and sometimes my husband was saying, because you're so honest with yourself, people might think you're broken because you talk about your broken places. But, that's one of the gifts of being a lone wolf. I don't actually give a shit what people think about me. I'm committed to truth and honesty and freedom for myself. And getting in front of this microphone and speaking about that every week is one of the things that keeps me most honest. If I didn't have to show up here today, I would not be delving into this topic for myself. So There's a beautiful gift in being a lone wolf. We are the challengers of the status quo. We're able to see the shadow of systems and people and things that aren't working because we're not part of the pack, because we're not part of the, the rah-rah crowd. We're not part of the herd of sheep. And the only way to do that is to kind of be up on the hill observing it. And so there's so much good in that. There's so much strength. And, a big part of my message is about personal self-responsibility. And that still is a part of my message. None of that is bullshit. And it's not the only part of my message now, right? It's like I have to be so steeped in that in order to know it inside and out. And then these nuances begin to get delivered. These nuances of, well, is personal self-responsibility ever too much? Or is it ever not called for? And when would that be? And what would that look like? Do you see? So your strength is your medicine. It's not becoming about somebody that you're not. It's not about letting go of, your need for being alone or your strength and clarity that happens from the space of separation. It's about including the parts you haven't yet been including. And my system really likes it when I speak like that, because if we just try to make the lone wolf wrong, she's going to fight. She's going to fight. She's going to bite us. She's going to pull the covers up over our head. So we really have to genuinely begin from this place of honoring what she is. And I looked up wolf medicine before we came on because she's, really been so present for me this morning. And I want to share some of that with you, some of other benefits of wolf medicine, which is that wolves are pathfinders. They're the forerunner of new ideas, and they return to the clan to teach and share medicine. So I feel like that's what's happening with me right now. I've been very much out on the forefront, learning about essence, learning about myself, being so alone that there is no one to bounce myself off of, right? It's like just this deep internal inquiry. And it's only when I got very, very sturdy in that I was able to come out even to do the radio show or to offer Magic School in this bigger way, because I am firmly anchored in who I am. And so that's been part of my path. And now that I have that firm anchor, it's about remembering those muscles that allow me to join and remembering where those connector receptors are in my body, in my energy space, in my heart, so that I can begin to incorporate now the next aspect, the next evolution of my becoming. So some other things about wolves are they're super loyal, and they do have an enormous sense of loyalty and family, and they are strongly individualistic. They live by carefully defined rules and rituals. They are friendly, but they're wary, And so in a way, that's what we're built for. And the senses of wolves are very keen. So lots of us lone wolves are highly energetically sensitive, and we've created experiences in our lives that said, people aren't trustable, and especially people who aren't awake are not trustable. And there aren't a lot of people awake yet. So, that leaves kind of a small pool to hang with. And we can also call bullshit on that, right? There are many of us who are awake. And what we are finding in Magic School is as we convene, it's not as easy as we thought to actually connect, right? The thing that we've been longing for, when we get in that space of other women, all of our old programming shows up, like, oh, I'm not good enough, or she's not good enough for me. So our judgments separate us. And then, and sometimes it's just our lack of, I don't even know where to begin with this. I don't know how to trust. I don't know how to soften. I don't know where to open a door to let someone in to meet me, So, also the wolves are associated with the moon, which is the symbol for psychic energy. And wolves hold unconscious secrets of knowledge and wisdom. And, baying at the moon is, like I feel like my heart's kind of been baying at the moon lately for just desiring this, connection and support and like wanting it to come to me. But there's this sense of grief, like I don't even know where it would come from. And of course, that's the vulnerability. It's like being in that place where you don't know. That's completely foreign to me because I've always been the knower, and that's been my protection. And so being in a space of wanting something and not actively procuring it for myself is a place that feels, what does it feel like? It feels awkward. It feels awkward. It feels uncomfortable. And I want to fix it. I want to do something. I want to call some people and find out who knows an older woman who might be a mentor, And I also get that's not really the point. The point is to keep coming inward and working my own system, working the parts in me that are not yet available for my mentor. How do I know they're not available? Because she hasn't shown up. Our exterior world is just a manifestation of our interior energetic setup. And so we can just use it for clues about what we're actually available for with no judgment, with no judgment. I'm going to just share a couple more pieces. So, the wolf teaches you to know who you are and to develop strength, confidence, and surety so that you do not have to demonstrate and prove yourself at all. So, we get very internally strong when we have to do everything by ourselves. There's definitely a light side to all of that. Self-sufficiency, confidence, knowingness, Those are beautiful gifts that we have as lone wolves. And the lone wolf, but here's what I loved. The wolf has a capacity for making quick and firm emotional attachments, right? So if you think about it, like wolves mate for life. And so we do have that capacity. What that takes is learning to trust your own insights and to secure your attachments accordingly is part of what wolf medicine teaches us. So the wolf can help you to hear the inner and guard you from inappropriate actions. It will guard you as it teaches you, sometimes strongly, sometimes gently, but always with love. I really love that because I think lots of us lone wolves are probably warrior archetypes or great mother archetypes. And so, part of why it's difficult to attach with other people is because we don't trust ourselves to know. So we might tell the story we don't trust them, but in reality, we don't trust ourselves to make a good choice. Because in the past, our system was oriented toward not being connected. And so we did make choices that seemed to serve as evidence that when I connect, I get betrayed or hurt or let down or not met, right? And so, I'd love for us to actually just drop in here for a moment because I can still feel there's some people fighting this, that this is not them, you shapeshifters and, maybe heroines too, I think are fighting it a little bit. Mystics are maybe tuning out. And all of you have this. You have this same mechanism. The great mothers and warriors are like, yes, this is my medicine. I'm on this, But we all have it. So again, like if you're in a relationship, because usually, those more connecting types, those more relational types tend to get in relationship with people who are not relationship types. So your gig is shining the light of how relational you are, but you're not actually connected, And what I see is that at its heart, true connection is about intimacy. It is a two-way street. It's about both parties working their edge so that intimacy is possible. It's not just about the lone wolf, right? The outward manifesting lone wolf becoming softer and more loving, and that fixes everything, right? Because what you'll find in your relationship is when that happens, the dance shifts. And so the one who's been chasing now has a whole set of issues on their end that need worked in order to actually allow the connection to take place, right? Because it does take a really strong person to meet a wolf. And so if your gig is I'm going to be relational and I'm going to be the subservient one, if you want your lone wolf to meet you, then you're going to have to step up, right? You're going to have to step up in a different way than what you've been manifesting. So I'd like for us just to drop in, to see if we can drop into what the heck this actually is. And I want you to see this experience for yourself, to see what it's actually doing in your life, how it's showing up, what you can learn about it for yourself. And then we'll start to play with what we might do to shift it if that's what's called for. Okay? So I invite you to just close your eyes. Just close your eyes and receive a deep breath. Begin to gather your attention into the center of your awareness. Let go of those things that your attention is engaged in other than this moment. Anything that you're multitasking, all the places that you're out in front of yourself or hanging on to the past. Imagine you can just let go of that stuff right outside your space and bring just your energy into the center. Good. And then as you become present, go ahead and just scan your system right now. Imagine you can scan your system and you can begin to just see what's present before we even look into the lone wolf syndrome. Just see like what's happening in your body based on the conversation so far. Do you feel edgy? And do you feel yes, right? Does your body feel alive and like, yeah, this is heading somewhere. I like this. Or are you in total resistance to it? What is your physicality telling you? Does it feel good? Does it feel not good? Yeah. Good. And if you need to make any adjustments to make yourself more comfortable, you can do that. So if you need to release some energy or create some safety for yourself or take another deep breath, go ahead and do that. And then let's settle in here. Let's settle in to have a conversation with our inner lone wolf. And so I just invite you to drop into your heart space. That's where mine lives. If yours lives a different place, you can drop into where that is too. And as you find yourself arriving in that space, see if you can invite her to meet you. And then imagine that you can sit down with her cross-legged and begin to ask her what she would like to tell you that you haven't been willing to hear. And you may hear words, or she may be showing you things. Allow yourself to be the student of your own wolf. You may also notice your tendency to run from her. So it may be hard for you to listen. You may find yourself getting distracted or wondering how long this is going to take, or even having a hard time just looking at her or being with her. And that's okay. Just see if you can catch your own attention and come back. You may even just begin by becoming curious about why you would not want to hear what she has to say. You may start by tuning into what it feels like, what that avoidance feeling feels like. And then you may want to ask her some questions. Like, does it serve us to stay separate? Is it possible for us to heal our aloneness? Does it serve us to do that? Mm-hmm. And what else? What else would she have you know? Yeah, good job. Way to be there. Way to actually show up and let yourself see, to learn, to sit at the feet of yourself. And so it occurs to me that it might be just as easy from here to begin to allow our wolves to teach us. Mine looks ready to do so. She's actually like, great, thanks for the conversation. Let's go. She's actually been waiting for me. She's been waiting for me. And she was telling me that the world is ready for my heart, that I can't actually protect it. It's part of my gift. It's part of my offering. And it doesn't actually serve for me to keep it protected the way that I have been anymore. And so now let's invite our wolves to begin to teach us in whatever way that looks like. So she may ask you to follow her. She may sit down with you and teach you something. She may teach you gentleness, or she may teach you boundaries, or whatever that is. So just ask her. Say, I'm ready for my first lesson about healing this lone wolf tendency in myself. Show me. I'm ready. And keep surrendering. Keep surrendering. So don't have it be what you think. Move yourself out of the way. Let yourself be surprised. And that's how you know you're in the sweet space. Let her show you. Great. Let's take another 30 seconds or so for this first lesson. Allow her to show you any last things you need to know to be complete right here. Beautiful. Okay, so thank your wolf for her medicine, for her teachings. Honor her for being here. Promise her you'll be back, if that's a promise you're interested in making. And then go ahead and find yourself back up in the center of your awareness. And just allow your cells to integrate on an energetic level what you just learned right there. So it's not a head thing. It's not about doing something per se. Just like allow your cells to get the update. Feel it kind of tingling through your body, through your torso, your heart space, your spine, your back, your legs, your arms. Feel it washing through your brain, updating the synapses to match this new way of being. And so it is. So you're welcome to just sit there in the expansion of the beingness of what you just observed. And I'd like to just share what I witnessed. So for me, it was, it's always surprising, right? When you get out of the way, it's not what your mind thinks. So I was surprised that actually I thought my lone wolf would be making the case for staying separate. And actually, the guide that showed up for me was a wolf saying, it's time to be done with this. You know, she was waiting for me. She was glad that I was there. And when I asked her about, you know, the lesson, like, so how do we begin or what do we do? She stood up on her back paws and showed her belly. And I was like, oh, so we have to show our underbelly, right? Because this is my mind, like interpreting, like, oh, so we have to be really like open and, you know, subservient, which is like my greatest fear. You know, that would be the thing I would hate and why I wouldn't do it. And then she was showing me, she was like dancing and she was teaching me that stop taking yourself so fucking seriously, you know, like you can just have fun with this. You can be vulnerable in your fun, right? And fun has been an edge too, because there's a certain connection in fun. And so she was, you know, just kind of teasing me, but also demonstrating how it can be both and. It doesn't have to be this painful chasm, which really coming into this show today, I thought that's what it was going to have to be. So that was really refreshing. And then at the end, when I was asking, is there anything else? She started licking my hand and she had me put my hand over my heart. And she was saying, feel yourself, you know, feel yourself. The portal to connecting with others is being willing to feel yourself. And so much of what happens in the lone wolf paradigm is because we're on watch, because we're guarding the pack, because we're tracking everybody's stuff, we tend to lose the ability to feel ourselves. Or if we feel ourselves, we're not willing to feel any of the more what we consider vulnerable emotions. So we don't do well with pain and sadness and grief and shame and, you know, all of those pieces. And so she was, you know, telling me to just get real with myself. And so if I'm sad, feel my own sadness rather than try to fix it or process it or talk about it or do anything, but really just feel it. And as I connect with myself, there's a natural ability for others to connect with me too, you know? And so, you know, and I want to just say this, like, it's interesting because so many people who listen to the show say they love my vulnerability, and that's one of the things that attracts them. And I've said this many times, but I'll just say it again. The reason I do this show is because vulnerability is hard for me. And so it is a lesson for my ego. It is the edge of my becoming. It is the way for me to serve myself and the planet. And so it's not that I'm not more vulnerable than most people, which is why there's medicine in here for everybody, right? Because I've done a ton of work into this. And if you're kidding yourself that you've done this work or there's not something here for you, I'm just going to say again, very loudly to your ego, there is medicine here for you. If you are a human being, you came in under this illusion of separation. So perhaps, you're separating yourself with extra weight or with food or with money or in a relationship where it's not reciprocated or, whatever your stories are. You may be using substances to separate. Whatever that is your version. It's your version of the lone wolf. You can absolutely be in relationship and be alone. You can be on the radio with thousands of listeners and still be alone, right? You can be anywhere and do anything and still be alone. And what we're doing here on this edge of becoming is taking these deeper and deeper looks at where else can we become more fully us? Where can we let go of the illusion? Where can we start calling bullshit on our own stories and not let our egos fool us that there's any part of us that's ever done, that there's not some next layer that's calling us forward? Because as powerful and competent and capable as I am, as much as I've achieved in my life from the throne of the lone wolfess, right? It is now time for me to add to that. It's not about all of that being invalid. That was awesome. It rocked. It was necessary. It was part of the plan. And the next part of the plan includes even more of me. I get to have all of it. I get to be all of that and be loved and be met and to feel, right? And so we all just navigate that together, one step at a time, one breakthrough at a time, letting ourselves be seen, letting ourselves say yes to an invitation, letting ourselves name an actual feeling within a relationship or within a conversation, letting ourselves fall apart in a place we normally wouldn't, having fun, showing our underbelly of fun, losing our jadedness, showing up in our curiosity and wonderment, right? We get to have all of that. So cheers to the lone wolves. Thank you for all of you who are leading the paradigm and calling the shadows and herding the sheep. And also we need you. We need you. We want to feel you. We want to be next to you. And so let us begin. So we would love to continue this conversation with you. I'm particularly interested to hear from both sides. I'd love to hear people who know they are lone wolves, and I'd love to hear from people who thought they weren't, but learned something about the way they're relating or connecting and what your wolves had to teach you. So we can do that conversation one of two places. We're going to actually be doing it both places. So if you're a member of the tribe, that's facebook.com/group/Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. And that's a free group. So if you're not already there, join us over there. And we also are already posting over at www.WSMR, as in Wild Soul Medicine Radio, WSMRchat.com. So share your thoughts, share your reactions. You don't have to agree with me. If you hated it, if you got nothing, if you think I'm full of crap, I want to hear that too. And we love to hear, your learnings as we get vulnerable together and just start naming these things so that we can lose the shame and move into the business of becoming. So next week we will have a guest. I'm going to be sitting down with Jenna LaFlemme, and we'll be talking all things pleasure and relating to, coincidentally enough, the animal that is our body, and using our animal to inform us about, where to go and how to be and how to join our spirit with our physicality, which is something that is endlessly fascinating. And Jenna is really the real deal with that. And also a lone wolf. It was so funny, actually, as the email came out this morning, she called me and I was just smiling because I was like, my favorite lone wolf friend. Hello. Right? And I just adore her. So I can't wait to share her with you next week in all of her wildness and celebrate all that she's becoming. So until then, my loves, thank you for being here. Thank you for holding space and witnessing and being willing to look inside and see what's there for you too. I love you. Bye for now.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination, for God's sake. A revelation, for God's sake. An inspiration, for God's sake. Illumination, for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake.